Hi guys, welcome back to my tutorials. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how we can create this pricing section using HTML and CSS. So let's get started. So right here, I have a blank index.html file, which just is a boilerplate. And then we have a blank style.css file. So let's get started. So to get started, as we always do, you link the CSS to the document. And also you have to make sure that this style.css name corresponds to the name of your file. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a section. I'm going to use a section tag because it's a section. And then inside the section, we have 3 cards. So basically we have like 3 cards inside the section. So we are going to create those cards one by one. Also, we have some very nice gradients or some very nice, it's like a light source. We're going to see how can we also create that light source using HTML and CSS. So let's create the first div. So I'm going to create 3 of them, 1, 2, 3. And then, so we are in the first card. We are going to copy paste the first card 3 times because it follows the same structure. So in the first card, we just create, let's start with the heading and then give it a class of name. This one is free. So we are going step by step. So after heading, what else do you think we can do? We are going now to this section. So let's create a new div and give it a class of dot price. So inside the price, we have 2 elements, the price and another element that shows the duration. So here in the price, I'm going to create a paragraph and say $0. So we are going step by step. So we are here right now. So let me show you here. This is where we are at. So we have the dollar and then we have another paragraph that shows the duration. So we are done with that. Then we move on to this section. So it's still step by step. The next section, let's create a new paragraph tag and give it a class of description. Then we just say up to 50% discount for referrals. So we're just going step by step. So we are done with that. Now let's move on to this section. Now this section, as you can see, it has similar items whereby you have an icon and then you have the description or the text. So this one, I'm going to create a div to hold this section and I'm going to call this div features. So you can give them any name you'd like, but for my case, I'm going to call it features. And then in the features, now we have a feature. So the feature is this individual item. This one also needs to be in a div because it has 2 elements inside it. So we are going to say dot feature. We create the first feature and then after we get to here, you realize that we need this icon. So to get this exact icon, go to my GitHub repository. Let me just show you. You can say github.com/techwithtwin/tiktok-projects. Okay. Then look for a project called, it should be called pricing table. So let's go to PRSTP. This one is the pricing table. Inside here, you can find the circle SVG. Copy it and then let's continue. So in the feature, we have this icon and then you have the text or the description, you could call it. So let me look for that icon. So I'm going to drag that icon. It's called the check circle icon. You can see it. And then you can close that. Let's create, we are going to use an image to show it. So in the image, the source will be check circle SVG. And then we have a paragraph and then we say unlimited referrals. So we are done with one feature. So we need to do the exact thing we have done to all the others. But for us to continue, let's now go live and see what we have. So this is what we have. So the first thing, let's go to the CSS file and add the default CSS style. So we're going to say margin of 0, a padding of 0, a box sizing of border box. So these are just basic CSS styles that you need to add in case you are writing pure CSS. Other than that, you'll have some weird bugs that you don't know where they are coming from. So the next thing we are going to do is that I'm going to grab the body, and the very first thing I'm going to do is to give it a background color of black. And if I do that, you'll see that we get this check circle that is very huge. So we can go back to, before we do that, let's make sure the color also has a light color. So you can say RGB A. We want a white color, 255, 255, 255, but we reduce the opacity. Then you can see the text is now visible. So we can go back and reduce the width of the image in the HTML. So the width, I'm going to write a width of maybe 22 pixels. And then you can see it there on top. So the next thing I'm going to do is, let's go back to our body. We're going to make sure this section is in the middle. So we can do display flex, justify content, the center. All right, you can see it. And then the next thing you might realize is that this section is too close to the edge. So we can do a padding of 2rem. So yeah, that's nice. So the next thing we are going to do is, now let's look for a font that we can use. But before then, let me add a primary color that we are going to use. So we can say dash dash. Primary, we are creating a CSS variable. So we can say hash A 7FE 89. This is a greenish color. So we are creating a CSS variable so that we can use this variable everywhere we want to use it. And if we want to change this, we just change it in one place. All right, so let's go to fonts.google.com and look for a font called Lato. So come here on top and search for Lato. This is Lato. Click on the bottom, you'll see something that says get embed code. Get embed code, and then go to the import and then copy the import. So make sure here it says one. Otherwise, then you'll be importing multiple fonts unless you want to. And then come to the CSS on top and then paste that in. And then go to the body and then say font family. You say Lato. As a fallback, we use sans serif. All right, so let's go back and see. Yeah, you can see the font has changed. So let's proceed. So what else can we work on? So the next thing we are going to work on is that we are going to grab the section. You can see the section on the finished version has 3 elements displayed side by side. That tells you that the section has to have display flex so that they can be side by side. Before we do that, let's finish adding the markup. So we are done with the first section. Are we done now? We reached to a point where we added the first feature. So we need to add 2 more. So we just copy this down. 1, 2. So the second one, we are going to call these all integrations. And then finally, we call these core platform features. So we are done with that. So if you go back here, you can see we are done. So let's proceed. You're going to style all these the same way. So let's copy this div down. So we go to the next card. All right, so this is the next card. So this one should not say free. This one should say grow. And then this one is $50 a month. So we can say 50. And then this one is up to 10 discounts. So we change this to 10. And the first one, it's not 50, it's 5% discount. So up to 10% discount. And then they're not following each other exactly as we would like, but after the description, we have now, let's create a new paragraph and call it disclaimer. So you can say p dot disclaimer plus everything in free. Right, so we are saying that we are going to add this disclaimer. So when you buy the Grow version, then you get everything in the free. Okay, so that's that everything is free, is that everything in the free package. All right, so then after adding that, here we only have one feature. So we can remove all the other features. We can remove two. And then that one feature is called in-brand customization. And then after the features now, let's move out of the features. Remember now we have features and feature. This one is the features. This one is the feature. This one is the features. This one is a specific feature. Let's create a badge. So we can create a div dot badge. Then we can give the text of recommended. So we are done with that section. Let's copy this down finally for the final section. So we are going to copy this down. So the final one does not have a badge, so we can remove the badge. It has in-brand customization, so this one has premium SLAS. And then you say plus everything in grow. And then this one you earn 15% on 15% discount. And then now this one is $100. Right, and also we forgot, what did we forget? Let's look on the second section. So grow $50 plus everything in free. Yeah, so that's okay. We are done with the HTML markup. Let's go live and see what we have. This is what we have. First thing first, let's display this side by side. So these are inside the section. As you can see now, the section holds 3 divs, with each div representing a card. So you have 3 divs, 1, 2, 3, each div holding a card. So what we are going to do now in the CSS file is let's grab the section. We can grab it by the tag name because we only have one section. So you can say section. The first thing is display this flex. And then now the cards are displayed flex. You can see how easy it gets. Then let's align them in the center. So you can say align item center. You can see now this one is in the middle. This one is in the middle. All right. And then let's give them a gap of maybe 0.8 rem. That is fantastic. So let's now focus on the specific card. Which is the specific card? This is like this card. But they have all the same styles. Like you can see the background color is the same. The hover color is the same. Everything is the same, only that some content is changing. So to get that, we don't even need to give them classes because we can grab the direct children of the section. So we can do dots. No, we cannot use a dot, is a tag. So the section direct child div will select all the 3 div. So the first thing we are going to do now here, is let's display this flex direction of column. And then let's add some gap of on. Okay, you can see the gap has been added. The next thing we need to add is the background color. Final version, you can see there's a background color, so let's add it. So we can do background color of, let's use hash 2a, 2b, 2a. You can see the color has been added. Something that you might realize now up to this point is that this content is too close to the edges. So what do we need to add to make sure that we get some breathing room from the elements? This is like buying a very tight shoe around your foot. So what do you need to do? You need to buy a bigger shoe. But in our case, we just add something called the padding. So we can say padding. We are not going to add the same padding on all the sides. So we are going to add padding vertical and padding horizontal. So you can say 2 rem on the vertical and 1.2 rem horizontal. All right, you can see it now. The next thing, what next thing can you realize? So let's first add the border, then we can talk about that. So I'm going to add a border that is 1 pixel solid RGBA 255. This is a white color, but you're going to use 0.3 for the opacity. So the borders has been added. So what issue can you see in this? Is that the edges are too sharp. So how do you make an edge too sharp? You file the edge. But now in CSS, you don't file edges. You just add something called a border radius, and then we can use, let's use 5 pixels. Okay. And then let's restrict the width of each card. So we can say width, maybe 250 pixels. Okay. So that one has been long. So the width of 250 pixels is a lot. Okay. So to prevent them from overflowing, let's first make sure they are like that. So let's move forward, and then whenever you hover over this button, so over this div, so we can say section, direct child div, and then hover. Whenever you hover over it, then you change the border color. So you can say border color to our primary color. And then you can go ahead and try to add easing, but I think it's still nice even if we have not added any easing effects. All right, so let's first focus on the second element. So first thing first is that in this section, we give it a display of flex. So this one is the whole section. And then we align these items to the center, and we give it a gap of 0.8, and then in the body, still the same. So we also added the font. So let's continue back. So let's now switch gears now to the second element. So in the final version, the second element is bigger than the rest. So how do we make sure that it's bigger? We increase its width or its height. No, not its width. So we can do section div, and then we have this selector called nth child. Nth child selects a specific child. This child is the second child. This is the second child we are talking about. So we can use the nth selector. We get the nth child, and then we get the second child. All right. What do we want to do in the second child? We increase the height to something like 180 pixels. Okay, something is wrong. So section, we try to get the nth child div. So something is wrong. So let's go and see what issue we are facing. So we have this first div, then you have the second div, and then finally we have the third div. So I don't know why it is selected the second one. So I'm going to use something like 140%. Right, so that looks a bit nice, but now we are facing some more issues. But let's go back to the body and see. Let's add some margin put up here. So we can say margin top. So the margin top is 1.5. Let's use something like 1.5 rem. Okay. still it's large. I don't know why there is an empty space here. Let's go to the second div and see. So we have an issue. So I think this one is okay. We have the features. We only have one feature. I think this is okay. I don't know why it looks like that. So the next thing we are going to deal with is the 140% is too large. Let's do something like 120. Let's use 120. I don't know why there is some issues, but we'll see as we continue. Okay, so the next thing I want to tackle is the name. So all these divs have a name. So we have a name like grow, the other one has a name of free, and the other one has, so the final one was not grow, this one was, the final one was called scale, not grow. This one was, no. Let's look at the final version. This one should be scale. So what you can realize on this is that this has a different color. So, and also it is bold and it's large. So let's go back to our CSS and then let's style the dot name. The first thing, we increase the font size to maybe 1.3. You can see the font size and increased. Let's make sure the color also is the same. So we can say color, then our primary color. Okay, so we get the same exact result. So I'm trying to see whether we have some sections that we are not using because some of these issues are getting weird. But that's not the issue. The next thing we need to focus on is let's focus on the price. The price is these two. So we can go ahead and grab the dot price and display flex to them. So you can see now they are displayed flex. So if you want to know where I got the price, this is the price. And then you can see in the price, we have the first child and the second child. So I don't want to add some more classes here. I can just use the first child selector or the nth child selector. So what you're going to do is we also need to align items to the center. Okay. And then after aligning items to the center, let's add some gaps, maybe 0.2 rem. All right, that gap is okay. Then let's increase the font size of this section or that text because you can see how huge it is here. So how I'm going to do this is now on the price, I'm going to select paragraphs, but I need the first child. So we have a child selectors in CSS. So whenever I say price, give me the first paragraph child. That means go to price. The first child is this one. So how are we going to tackle this? We are going to say font size is 2.3 rem. So let's increase 2.3 rem. All right. So you can see it's very huge as we expected. And then let's make sure it's bold. So we can say font weight of, let's use 700. Okay, that looks nice. And then let's make sure the color is white. So you can say color is white. Right. So that looks nice. So I'm still wondering what happened to this section whereby everything is scattered. Okay, let's look into that. So this is the first div. Let's go to the second one. So we have the heading, name, price, description, disclaimer, features, and the badge. I don't know where that space is coming from. So You can see we are selecting all the divs together. Okay. The background colors are okay. Flex direction also is okay. The gap is okay. So I don't know why there is an issue, because I can see there are some spaces here. Let me see whether I can inspect and see what that space is. So I'm trying to inspect. Let me inspect and see what might be in that space. So the price seems to be taking up a lot of width. So let me see. Let me increase the size. So still the price is taking the much of the space. Why is that? Okay. So I'll leave that to you guys to fix. For now, let's focus on. Okay, we did display the price. Let's see what we did with the price. So we displayed the price as flex. So let me. Okay, still the price takes up too much width, too much height. I don't know why. Let me check. So let's go back to the div. So display flex. Okay. I think we'll leave that there. Let's first finish on the styles and then we can check where that issue is coming from. Right, so after the price, let's go to the features. So we can go to the features and display them flex. So we can say dot features, then display flex. So remember the features is this whole section which has all these features. So we display them flex and then in a column way. So flex direction column. No, we don't want column here. You can use column. So, and then let's add some gaps. So the gap we are going to add is 0.5 rem. Okay, so the height has increased a little bit. And then finally, let's focus on the feature. So we can say dot feature. So the feature also, let's display it flex. And then align items to the center. So we can align the items to the center. Okay, so we got some space back, and then this LS section is what we are working on. So we're working on this section. So let's add some gaps between the icon and the text. So we can say gap of maybe .2 rem. Okay, that's cool. Let's go to the finished version. Okay. There seems to be an issue with these sections because so there seems to be an issue. Let's see whether we can find that issue. So the section we displayed, we display the section flex. Okay. Okay. So let's go to the div here and try to solve this issue. So height, now height of fit content. So still doesn't solve because, okay. So the section, let's add some background color here. Background color red. Okay. Let's go back here. Can remove this. Let's remove this flex. Okay, so flexbox seemed to be the issue. We displayed flex on the body. I don't understand why that is the issue. So the issue was the flexbox display flex on the body. And then justifying the item to the center. Okay. Let's continue, guys. Let me know in the comments what do you think was the issue. So let's continue. Let's go to the second child. Let's increase the height to something like 140. So it's still not working. So section, div, and child, second child. And then, so, and child, second child. Give it a height of maybe 140. Still the height doesn't go to 140. So let's try to render this again. So I'm going to stop this. And we can try rendering this out again. Still the same issue. We gave this a height of 140 pixels. So let me inspect and see. So the height seems to not be working. Okay, so section, div, and child second. Let's add some background and see. Okay, I think I see where the issue is coming from. It's grabbing all the divs. So I think so I can see where the issue is coming from. So you can see our selector is trying to select other divs that are not part of the div we are interested in. I don't know whether I can chain the, if I chain, then it scopes that in, but the height is not. So let's add the height manually so we can do, let's do 10 rem. Okay, so the percentage is what is not working. So that means we can add, so the percentage is what is not working. So let's go to the section. And then should we target the body? Let's see. So if I do 100%, it doesn't work. We still have a display flex on the div itself. Section div, display flex, column, and also a gap. Okay. So that seems to be the issue. The 100% is not working. So let's do 10% and see. So the beauty of using percentages, okay, that's 100. That can't be 10. So let's go with fixed heights. So that's 20 rem. Let's do 30 viewport height. Let's do 30 rem. That's too large. So let's do 25. I would like to know, guys, in the comments, what do you think is the issue? So I'll leave it at that point because I think we didn't come to the exact one we wanted, but let's reduce this to maybe 22 or 23. Okay, I think that's nice. That's very nice. So I'm going to leave it at that point. And guys, I want to see what you'll build. So let's finish up and then I do want to know what you think. So we got to the feature, the price, and then we want to push this to the bottom. So we can just grab it by the price. And then we want to grab the dot price and then p nth child. We want the second child. So remember here we picked the first child, which was this one. Now we want the nth child, which now we can do align self to the end. And then you can see where it moves. All right, so the only remaining thing is the disclaimer. So let's focus on these disclaimers. We have two. So how to work on this disclaimer? I gave them a class of disclaimer. So I'm just going to disclaimer. And then I just give it a color of white. Then you can see the disclaimer's color is now white in color. Finally, let me work on this badge. So I'm just going to, I give it a class of badge. So I can just do this. So the first thing, let's make sure the color is our primary color. So you can see the color has been added as a primary color. Let's add some background colors. So background color is hash 35, 43, 30. So that's the background color. You can see it's filling the whole width. So we can just specify that the width here should be fit content. You can see it. Let's add some padding so that it can look like a badge. So padding, vertical 0.3 rem and horizontal 0.6 rem. You can see it. You can see now. Let's make the edges curvy. So we can use the border radius. We can say border radius 5 pixels. I think that is okay. Let's also make sure it's italicized. So we can say font style italic. You can see it. Then let's increase the font weight to something like 600 to 600. All right, so that's it, guys. That's how you can create such a pricing section using HTML and CSS. We had some issues with this card. So if you can try to play along and see where the issue is, let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching. Make sure you like, follow, and share with your friends. Thank you.